Stay home, save lives.
A big hello to all my dear students who have recently come to class 9th from class 8th. As we all know, the world is facing a huge medical emergency now in the form of coronavirus. And so, this video will help you to productively engage yourselves in the study of science. Now, science in class 9th, we are going to study from this book, that is the NCERT textbook of science. When you come to the contents, you will see that the first chapter is Matter in Our Surroundings. The first chapter of your science book is Matter in Our Surroundings. Okay, now let's start with the chapter. Now, I'm holding this book in my hand. I'm feeling that it has some mass and it is occupying some space. Similarly, the food that we eat, the clothes that we wear, the air that we breathe, even a drop of water and a grain of sand, all of them have mass and all of them occupy some space. So we say that everything around us that has mass and occupies space is called as matter. Now, ancient Indian philosophers believed that all the living and non-living things on this earth are made up of 5 basic elements, and they are the earth, water, fire, sky, and air. These are called as the Pancha Tattva. Not only Indian philosophers, even the Greek philosophers also had some similar classification of matter. But the modern day scientists have classified matter based on its physical nature and its chemical characteristics. So your first topic in your chapter is the physical nature of matter. Now, studying about the physical nature of matter means what? It means what is matter composed of? See children, for many years, 2 schools of thoughts prevailed. One said that matter is continuous, maybe like a log of wood. And the other believed that matter is in the form of particles, like sand. Now, which one is relevant? Which one is adaptable? For that, we are going to conduct an experiment. The first activity which is given in your chapter. This activity says that if you take a beaker full of water and you put a teaspoon of salt into it and stir it well. When you fill it with water, mark the level of water with a sketch pen. And then when you add salt to it, you stir it well, again see the level of water. Will you see any change in the level of water? Where has the salt gone? Where has it disappeared? If you conduct this experiment at home, you will be able to answer these questions. You know what? The particles of salt have got into the spaces between the particles of water. This means what? That matter is made up of particles. We have innumerable activities and innumerable experiments that will confirm that matter is made up of particles. That is the first thing that we are going to study under the topic of physical nature of matter. Then the question comes, how big are these particles? Are they very big or very small? For that also, there is a second activity which is given in your textbook on the next page. This activity says that suppose in a beaker you take 100 ml of water and add a few crystals of potassium permanganate into it. Now, potassium permanganate itself is purple in color. So when you add potassium permanganate into a beaker full of water, it will turn purplish color or dark pink color. So then you take 10 ml of this colored solution and add it to another beaker which is containing 90 ml of water. When you do so, you will see that the color still persists. But you tell me, will the color be as intense as in the first beaker? Your answer is no. Okay, take another beaker, that is the third beaker. Again take over there 90 ml of water and 10 ml of this colored solution from the second beaker. Again add it to the third beaker. What will you see? That again in the third beaker, the color will persist. But will it be as intense as in the second beaker? No. The color will fade. So what you can say? that on repeated dilution, what is dilution? When we keep on adding water. So on repeated dilution, you will see that the color keeps on fading, but the color will still persist. It means what? It means that a single crystal of potassium permanganate contains millions of particles which keep on dividing themselves on repeated dilution, and they show their presence even after many repeated dilutions. Similarly, you can smell Dettol when you add a cap full of Dettol into a bucket of water, and you keep on adding that water into some other bucket of water. You can keep smelling Dettol for a long time, even after repeated dilutions, isn't it? That is the same thing, same experiment, which actually tells us that matter is made up of particles which are very small, so small that they are even beyond our imagination. So that forms the second point in our physical nature of matter. Then we said that matter is composed of particles. So what are the characteristics of these particles? The first characteristic we have discussed earlier, that when we added salt into water, when we added say sugar into water, or when we say make lemonade or tea or coffee, the level of the water does not rise. What happens actually? As I told you, salt or sugar, whatever you are adding to water, it gets into the spaces between the particles of water, isn't it? So what do we say? That the particles of matter have space between them, or what we say is interparticle space. The first characteristic of particle of matter is that they have interparticle space between them. Okay? Coming to the second characteristic. Before I tell you about the second characteristic, I would like to tell you the meaning of a term called diffusion. Now, diffusion means intermixing of particles, okay, of different forms of matter. Intermixing of particles. Now, what do I mean by that? Suppose I light an incense stick at one corner of my room. What will happen? I will be able to smell the incense stick even from a distance. You are able to smell the hot cooked food by your mother these days even from a distance, right? Now, why is it so? It is because the fumes of the incense stick have mixed with the particles of air and they have reached us. Okay? That means what? When they are mixing with each other, they will have to travel to mix, right? When I say they have to travel, that means what? Particles of matter have motion. They keep on moving. They show movement. So one thing I'm telling you here, particles of matter keep on moving, keep on continuously moving. Now when they move, what type of energy do they have? We have learnt about two different forms of energy in class 8th. Potential energy and kinetic energy. So any body which keeps on moving possesses which type of energy? Kinetic energy. So all these particles of matter which continuously move have kinetic energy. And with the help of this kinetic energy, they move and they intermix with each other. And that is what is called as diffusion. So it is because of diffusion that we can see, we can smell the incense stick even from a distance. Okay, so this is an example of what? Gas in gas diffusion. The fumes of the incense stick have mixed up with the particles of air, isn't it? Okay, I give you another example. Suppose I take a beaker of 2 beakers of water I take. In one I drop ink, another I drop honey. In which case will you see that the color has mixed up very fast? What is your answer? Ink, right? That means what? Ink is a liquid, water is also a liquid. Both the particles of matter have got mixed up with each other. This is an example of liquid in liquid diffusion. So, diffusion takes place almost in all states of matter. Now, if I suppose we had done this experiment just now with potassium permanganate, I dropped one crystal of potassium permanganate in a beaker full of water, and we could see that the color of the water had changed. It became purple. You know why? Because we had added a solid crystal of potassium permanganate to water, and the color spread it out throughout uniformly in the beaker. So it was an example of solid and liquid diffusion. This tells us what? It tells us that particles of matter possess kinetic energy, and because of that kinetic energy, they have the capability of moving. And when they move, they intermix with each other, and that leads to the phenomena of diffusion. This was the second characteristic of particle of matter. Coming to the third characteristic. Now suppose I take an iron nail and say a rubber band and a chalk, and I try to break them by either hammering or stretching or cutting. Now which one do you feel that you'll be able to break very easily? Instantly your answer would be chalk, right? But all the three have some force of attraction between their particles, and it is that force of attraction between their particles which makes it difficult to break them easily. We have to apply force, isn't it? So that means what? That particles of matter have force between them, or what we call as the interparticle force of attraction. There is some sort of force of attraction which is acting between the particles, which helps them to gain their shape. And that is why to destruct them or to, let them away of their shape, it becomes difficult. We have to apply force. So this is actually the third characteristic of particle of matter. So what are the three characteristics? That particles of matter have space between them. There is interparticle force of attraction and particles of matter possesses what we call as the kinetic energy. This finishes up with the first 3 pages of your NCERT textbook. I hope you could understand through this video the two important things, the physical nature of matter and the characteristics of particles of matter. You can solve the questions, the NCERT questions which are given in your textbook, but before that, read each and every line of these first 3 pages so that you are able to answer these questions well. Thank you all for watching this video.